Now, I would like to call upon for the next session, future of fintech collaboration between UK and India. We heard Adam Taylor on the day one. He was in the opening session and working with British High Commission. He mentioned the deep ties between UK and India, especially in the space of fintech. It gives a big opportunity to understand this collaboration at a deeper level and go further. We have the moderator Deepak Sharma, digital leader and former president and CDO Kotak Mahindra Bank; Nadia Sood, CEO CreditEnable; Nikant Hariharan, Country Head, KX Technologies; Kumar, Shekhar, Deputy Country Manager, Senior Vice President, Tide; Amit, Sahni, CEO, CroftX. May I please invite all the speakers and moderator on stage, please. Happy Women's Day, Nadia.
Thank you very much.
You're looking lovely. Over to you, Deepak. Just a gentle reminder, the time clock is onto your left, and we'll take a few questions. Just, I hope we have time for questions, at least one question.
I think if you can all settle down, we are very mindful of time ourselves, because for some of us, we are also going to work with a very hard closing time. I think once you just settle down, we probably will wait for 30 seconds for those who are standing around, if you can all take your seats. Because we are changing the format of this panel. We are going to start with you. I realize some of you had questions you couldn't really ask in the previous panel. So by just show of hands, if you can all settle down, there are few questions we want to do a pulse check before I get our accomplished panelists answer. They can answer anything, right? So we had to be very careful about how to make sure the next 30 minutes are productive for you as well as the questions that I asked them. So how many of you here are founder building a company? I know there are very few in the room, but still we'll love to see to show of hands. Great, so I see only one founder. Nobody else is a founder here. Okay, so I came with the presumption that we probably will have a lot of founders here, but how many of you are looking at anything which is a cross-border opportunity between India, UK, or building in India but for the world? Any interest which is beyond India? Few. How many of you are with financial service in some capacity or other? Oh, I see a lot of hands. Great. Otherwise, I was wondering, what are you all doing in a FinTech event if you've got nothing to do with financial service? So I'm glad at least one question of mine really worked. Great. So I think what we will do is I have set of some opening questions to each of our panelists. And then keep your questions ready. We will take a break after the first round of questions I ask panelists, so that if you have any question, we'll give you time to ask. And if you don't have questions, we'll continue with the rest of the session. So that's the format that we thought we'll continue. So I'll go to Nadia first. Nadia, happy Women's Day.
Thank you so much.
My question to you is, especially when we think from financial service perspective, be it credit or investment or any instrument, I don't think we think of women as one of our key consumers while designing product, credit, lending, any such experience. How do you think of both the opportunity and what should companies be thinking about when they are building their products, especially catering to or centered around women?
No, I think that's a great question. Thank you so much. So just as background, I run a financial technology firm called CreditEnable. It is headquartered in the UK and operates in India. And we facilitate SMEs access to affordable finance. And just a few facts that are relevant to the question that Deepak rightly posed. In most economies, SMEs generate about 50% of the total GDP, and they're the real economic drivers of growth. And in most developed economies, SMEs, around 60 to 70% of SMEs will be carrying active debt to help them grow, and they'll be accessing that debt from the formal markets. And if you look at India, the numbers are very disparate to that. So you've got about 14% of the 63 million companies in the country accessing debt, as compared to what might be close to 60 or 70% in the UK. Within that population of SMEs in India of 63 million, you have about 10% who are women. And that's growing every year. So as financial institutions are thinking about how do they provide new innovative product in the market, it seems to me an obvious thing that they have to think about creating product for women and for women entrepreneurs. And that means tailoring product to both what are the local dynamics of the market, the history around collateral, the level of financial education, and making sure that those products adjust themselves to those realities. So one of the things we're working on is a financial inclusion product, which is completely digitized, which allows women and smaller businesses to understand their credit position today, improve it, and then eventually access the formal financial sector for the debt that they're going to need. But certainly tailoring to women is a huge opportunity, because those who are going to do it first are going to get the loyal customer base, and they're going to be able to grow that customer base, because SME also is a high lifetime value customer. Once they take first loan, then they need current account, then they need treasury, then they need cross-border finance, they need many, many, many things. They need loans for their home, their children. So don't neglect women when if you're in financial services, when you're thinking about creating new product, because that's a community that will be very loyal and generate high returns for you.
No, absolutely. I think it's important. I know there are a couple of firms in India who are building women-first financial service business. In fact, one of the founder is a good friend of mine, and building this on investments, solving the problem of how do you get women to be more financially independent. While we do know on the credit side, microfinance institutions have always found women to be the better borrower. They are more, I would say, responsible towards the utilization of capital. But unfortunately, we still haven't seen at-scale opportunities being grabbed by a lot of fintechs. I was hoping some fintech founders here or audience in the room see that as one of the opportunities as they build forward. Great. So my next question is to Neelkant. And I think today, with all the AI buzz that's around us, everybody is talking AI. Everybody is like, if you don't talk AI, then looks like you probably have been left behind. And I think everybody's trying to catch something that can bring a narrative around, we also do something in AI or we use AI. So can you just help demystify both, as I said, AI as a business and AI embedded in the business? We will not talk about AI as a business for now, because I think how AI itself gets embedded in the business, especially when you're building product, you're scaling product, running ongoing concern. Can you share your thoughts about it? How do you see this opportunity?
Great question, Deepak. Thanks. So, see, AI is a reality, right? In fact, there was a study done by McKinsey. AI in the next 10 years, in fact, not 10 years, 5 years, is going to add the GDP of a country of the size of UK or India, $4 to $4.5 trillion worth of productivity. So whether you're a large enterprise company or you're a small and medium enterprise, it's very important to know how to leverage AI, right? Coming back to your question, right? You don't need to be a super tech expert to be able to do it. That's where these large language models. So let's take some examples, right? So in the insurance space, things like underwriting automation, claims processing, there's already traditional AI models that most companies have built, right? Now with generative AI, you have new kinds of information, your unstructured data, which is typically 10 times the size of your structured data, and you have these large language models. So you as a company are not going to spend millions of dollars building a ChatGPT-4 or a Claude or a Gemini, right? You need to leverage those existing models, make it work with your enterprise data, so that you can leverage the power of generative AI, where your customers or your business partners can ask natural language questions in an English kind of a language, and you can query your database, right? And especially again in a country like India, I think one of the speakers, Mr. Raman, talked about 30 lakh crores worth of investments are available. There are like 65 million SMEs. You need to have the capability to crunch both your structured and unstructured data you need to have a large language model. You need to leverage the power of a large language model and make it work with your own data, right? Because one of the things you must have heard of what happened to Gemini. AI models have hallucination. So you need to train your AI models with your data to make sure it gives the right answers and not some junk. So I think it's not complicated because these big tech companies have already done all the hard work. It's about knowing how to leverage it and embed it into your business.
So I think when we talk of AI, one of the big worry often is on the whole governance, ethical AI, what we often talk about. But more importantly, I see still AI is a black box, especially when you are looking at AI in financial service. Regulators are increasingly going to demand that there has to be an auditability and traceability of a logic or an outcome. For example, if your AI model says, hey, listen, Nilkant is not credit worthy, don't give him a loan. Today, probably consumers are not as aware. But tomorrow, if your AI models are taking those decisions and for some reason you have to go and explain, how will you build an explainability in AI is a big question mark. So I know before I move, I just thought if you have any two bits on that.
Yeah, I think, most countries, I know UK is probably very ahead in the race in terms of AI regulations. Prime Minister Sunak, he's built that AI body, he had this. So I think it's very, very, very important that you build safe, responsible, and causal AI. Bias is a big problem, right? Especially if you're in the insurance business, if you're in the financial services business. AI can create biases, which is what the Gemini model. There's so much of noise on the way it threw up some images. Most important thing that you need to do is you need to timestamp your data, right? Both your structured and unstructured data, so that if tomorrow there is an issue or a regulator asks you for compliance as to why did a large language model throw up this answer? Why did it reject Nilkant as a customer and call him not credit worthy? Are there other people like Nilkant who got rejected because of a bias? For all this, you need to timestamp your data when you're ingesting your data. So in your data pipeline, the first step is timestamp your data so that you can go back and query your LLM saying, why did you behave in a particular way? See, there are going to be problems, but if you're able to explain why a problem happened, you can fix it in time, right? Google is not able to do it. That's why there is so much noise.
No, awesome. So I think that's the point I wanted to drop. When you're building or using AI in financial service, make sure it's not a cowboy game. You have to be far responsible. In financial service, you can get away in other industry, but not in financial service. Great. Coming to you, Kumar. While I know you are one, of course, along with Nadia, running a cross-border business between UK and India and have perspective, but that question I'm going to keep it for the next round. I think right now, my question to you, just like women, was a segment where we haven't done enough and there's a significant opportunity. We see something similar in MSME, not just in India, but globally. I think we all realize that this is a segment where the jobs are getting created. This is a segment which is hungry for growth. This is a segment where entrepreneurs of different shape and size, they are not doing some cool startups, but they are building products, they are retailers, they are into service industry, they are doing all kind of stuff, which is taking the GDP of any country forward, right? So, but still we see that access to credit is a challenge. So considering that you look at MSME very closely, how do you see both the opportunities and challenge in scaling up the MSME from the financial inclusion and access to credit perspective?
No, that's a very, I will say, appropriate question currently. This is the most talked about thing. Lack of credit history, lack of credit access are the problem. And I will quote a couple of numbers so that we can visualize how big the market is, right? The official data suggests 64 million registered SMEs, right? And if you will look at the percentage to that population of India, it becomes like 4% or 4.5% of the entire population. But in developed country, that data is 9%, which means India is having a base of almost 130 million SMEs first. That's the base we are talking about. Let's not go with the 64 million. Second, 10 to 12% of women, which means we will have like almost like 15 million women entrepreneurs, and they are underserved truly for many reasons, because our society is designed like that, right? For example, even if you go towards the east side of the India, which I have extensively traveled, you will see women taking the lead in the business, right? Every shop, typically women will be there. Similarly, in southern belt, something, but not in the northern side of the belt. But even if they go for some loan to any of the bank or NBFC or a FinTech, the problem is they do not have anything in their name. That's what the data suggests, right? They struggle big time. Now, what we should do to simplify? That's the problem in the hand, that's the challenge, but I see at the same time this as a massive, massive opportunity for everyone. For example, I can tell what Tide is doing, and I'm not saying that's the right way, but we believe one of the things is the awareness of the scheme. For example, government is doing enough. For example, we have got credit guarantee scheme, we have got Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, we have got Stand Up India loan facility for specifically women. But how many women are actually using that? That's the problem. I actually went for, I would say, training come mentoring program for women in collaboration with the V-Hub in Telangana. And when I interacted with those entrepreneurs, they were amazing at their work, simply phenomenal. Someone were like making pickles, someone clothing, but they came up with basic question. I am not able to sell it beyond my mohalla. And today, while we are in Delhi, we said there is like a massive surge in the e-commerce, but that's the ground reality. When actually I went to the Telangana, people said that I don't know how to actually take it to the e-commerce and sell across like Delhi. We assisted them in coaching, telling them how they can actually register on the e-commerce and other stuff. The idea is they may not have a credit score, but they can build an alternate credit history for themselves. And maybe many FinTech, NBFC are turning now their thought process from just a credit score to an alternate credit, or I will say a trust score maybe, which can be based on your mobile payment history. It can be based on your just the cash flow of in and out transaction. It can be anything, and then you have to trust and then source that. So FinTech are simplifying maybe through the platform. Government is simplifying through lot of yojana which can help them. For example, the reach. Initially, people used to walk down to bank, right? But how many banks really serve to the tier 3, tier 4? The distance is always a challenge. FinTech is simplifying that, where they can actually be at home, provide the alternate source of data, and then create a trust score. So I think a lot has to happen, Deepak, right? I don't think this massive thing has been done so far, but we are in that journey to do massive thing in that segment.
No, absolutely. I think this is, again, I would say, a FinTech founder or anyone who wants to build something. These are the opportunities that I'll say continue to be one of the pivotal things in India's economy for even next decade, 2 decades, because this space is fragmented. This space is never going to get consolidated irrespective of whatever amount of capital you are going to put. And I think people building and solving for it over a period of time will continue to see green shoot opportunities that will come their way. More so because I think the biggest challenge is not that we have lack of capital, but it's about lack of verifiable data and the trust around which you do credit and lending, right? So I'm sure we'll keep another question on some of the global learnings that you think can be useful for founders who are building it here. But I'll move quickly to Amit, you. Again, changing from AI, while we know AI is the buzzword, but I don't think AI is all that matters, especially when you are in a financial service industry. Either you are building cross-border businesses, or you are building a business in India, but your market is beyond India, or even India for India, especially like we have been seeing the kind of new regulations that RBI and SEBI and all the regulators are coming with, and every time there's a regulation, it creates some amount of disruption. Some existing FinTech players, they struggle. So the question is, when you are a founder, you are building either an early stage or a growth stage firm, how should you look at regulation and risk as an embedded part of your product or a business journey?
Thanks, Deep. I think it's a very important question which you have touched upon. I think regulation is something which is part of the DNA of every business. And that's something slowly and gradually what we have seen over the last 10 years. Organizations and different jurisdictions have to adapt to the governance framework which a regulator is laying down. We have never seen regulation going less. We have always seen regulation increased, or there's been incremental changes which a regulator comes across and then businesses have to follow. Now, when you're a founder or when you're a new company, specifically in either financial services or whether you are in a non-regulate or a non-financial services sector as well, there are a couple of things which we have seen is important from the governance perspective. One of the important thing is the democratization of the data availability and accessibility and its usage itself. Specifically, organizations which are looking to grow their businesses either in India itself or looking for expanding in overseas markets, whether UK or businesses from there coming over here, they have to comply with the regulations. And when we talk about regulations, specifically regulation around compliance, we talk about generally 3 C's in every business, which is important for their success and growth. And every business needs those 3 C's. First being the capital, second being the customers, and third being the compliance. And compliance is something which is now part of the DNA of every business. We have seen regulations around compliance, specifically on money laundering, specifically, let's say, around financial crime, which includes prevention and detection of money laundering and also terrorist financing, and also regulations around fraud detection or frauds, and specifically corruption and bribery and terrorism, etc. In India itself, what we have seen is RBI and banks have actually started implementing these, and they have actually started using the best cases which we have seen in the UK and US, where regulations have laid down which are considered as gold standard. And recent with the implementation of the Data Privacy Act 2023, which just was passed by Parliament last year, we see now there'd be a greater focus on organizations, and specifically by RBI, to implement those regulations with the banks and other financial institutions. So we see that specifically in regulatory technology space, technology will be now used as an enabler to provide greater solutions to institutions to implement greater compliance and have more governance. And specifically this sector, as we see in the last 10 years, has been growing exponentially with 30% year-on-year growth. And we see that this sector has the potential from a total market size of $15 billion today to over $75 billion by 2030. So greater potential for companies specifically which are coming, establishing base in the FinTech space and looking out for providing compliance-led solutions, a greater opportunity for them in India and beyond.
Absolutely. I think the RegTech, risk business, fraud, analytics, I think they are all underlying businesses which are growing probably faster than the core business itself. So great opportunity. I think mindful of the time, I have one quick question to my panelists, and if you can keep it short, because we do want to give you time for 1 or 2 questions, and we have only 7 minutes remaining. So my first question is to Nadia and Kumar both. When we look at opportunities, you have seen both India and UK. What are 2 or 3, I would say, opportunities that you see on a cross-border between India and UK? Market, technology, learning, whatever comes to your mind. In any order, between 2 of you.
Yeah, I can take that. Absolutely no problem. I think UK market, what I have seen is very supportive to the FinTech evolution. They are slightly ahead in tech adoption. And for cross-border, I will summarize in one line that high income group is there for us to target in UK. And for UK in India, it's the wider population base which they can target, which is very tech savvy. So that's the opportunity I see. Product-wise, one of the research for Tide says the need of SME remains same across the globe. So product should not be reinvented. Products should be customized to the market. And that's what you can leverage across.
Great. So if you are building something for SME in India, you can even access UK as a market. That is my takeaway from what you just said. Nadia, what about you?
I mean, I completely agree. We actually built our technology platform largely in India and use it in different places. But I just wanted to answer that question by asking you guys a question. How many of you have multiple bank accounts? Okay, so how many of you have to have multiple apps on your phone to access those multiple bank accounts? Okay, so India is really far ahead in digital penetration. Pretty much everyone has a mobile phone. Many people have multiple mobile phones. Many people have multiple ways of accessing financial services. The innovation I think that's going to come is by adopting with pride some things that have happened in other markets. So in the UK, I can have 15 bank accounts and all of them accessible only from one mobile app from my core bank. Way less hassle. Here, if you want to try to access your financial information, you have to go through the account aggregator. You need to download 111 account aggregator app, and then even still, that doesn't cover everything. So I think the real advantage in India, considering the high level of digital penetration, is to make the customer journey as easy as possible for people. And that's something that the UK has a lot of experience with because it's a more mature digital market. And once we start bringing those innovations in that make everything you do as intuitive as an Apple iPhone, which even a 2-year-old can use without instructions, then you're going to see many more people actually accessing the products that are even currently available who wouldn't be able to before because it was too complicated. So for me, I think the more we can bring innovation on customer journey that's very simplified and easy and intuitive into India, the more chance there is to penetrate a massive market, right? We're talking about millions of people instead of 1 million people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think financial illiteracy and complexity exists globally everywhere. And I think if you solve for it through design, simplicity, it works, again, for a global audience. Well said. Questions from the audience? Anyone has a question? Or I'm just going to go back to my panelists in case if there are none. Great, there are none. Okay, so I did ask for questions. So Nilkan, one thing, just one. If you are building a firm out of India for global audience, keeping AI in mind, what is that one thing you will think is must for them?
I think it's about economics, right? All your prediction engines, essentially your AI is a prediction engine. The lower your cost of prediction, the greater the opportunity, business opportunity for you. And there is no place other than India where you can really test your product in terms of price and performance, right? You have huge audience, millions of people, and then obviously you have a very, very price sensitive consumer, right? So if you can make your product work in India, I guess you can sell it anywhere in the world.
So use India as a building and a testing lab and then scale it up, right?
Yep.
Great. I think great insight. Amazing. Amit, your bet, especially keeping in mind that every country has a different risk and regulation. And this is typically one of the challenges when you're scaling up globally. What would be your take on that?
I think having organizations to have a good risk-based assessment and having strong customer due diligence within their businesses is quite important. So when organizations are scaling it up, they need to implement, as I said earlier, risk compliance in their DNA and focus more on the innovation. I think one of the things which we focus on is the decision intelligence part in providing solutions to organizations, specifically on the governance side, which actually helps them to comprehend and also minimize the risk within the organization itself. In compliance world, we talk about different level of defense, whether it's first line of defense, second or third, or even 4 line of defenses. Those are quite important, and it's not only for financial services, but also for every other business which are providing, which are dealing directly with consumers, need to have those kind of risk-based assessments. So I think the key focus for businesses should be to have governance in place, have risk-based assessment, and also have technologies to provide them cost efficiencies and provide reliable and accurate information.
Great, awesome. So any questions towards the end? We are left with a minute. Okay, we have 1 minute and 20 seconds. I thought I'm going to finish before time, but we'll take this one question.
Hi, I'm Vardhan and I represent Fidelity International, which is based out of UK. So my question is, as a fintech industry, so in UK, so we have to manage regulations in UK governance as well as from coming out from EU. So how do you manage these regulations, both of them together?
Any one of you would like to take a shot? Yep.
Well, I think you have to be mindful all the time of that if you're going to be operating in any way, shape, or form internationally, you need to try to anticipate what's going to happen. So in the case of my firm, for example, we set ourselves up in the UK first, then we entered the Indian market, but we actually applied GDRP to our Indian business because we could already foresee that the Indian government was going to start regulating on data. And what is the most important thing, of course, to do is to protect your citizens, right, against foreign hostile behavior. So eventually, of course, India was going to move to some kind of data localization regime. So, you know, I think, and you'll probably agree, like looking forward to seeing, okay, who has the strictest regulation in the world? And then it's likely that everyone else will eventually get there, so you might as well implement it yourself, and then you're a bit of ahead, if you can, without too much cost, you're a bit ahead of the curve, and you're not having to be on the back foot all the time trying to recoup to become compliant.
Great. So I think with this, we will wind up. We are 30 seconds beyond our stipulated time, which is not too bad. Thank you all.
Deepak, you did a fantastic job of keeping time. Thank you, everybody, for the insightful discussion. And of course, UK and India have a shared cultural heritage and very deep ties. So this discussion was a perfect place to have that. Yeah. I would like to call upon Mr. Suman Bhaumik, Country Head and Director, Constella Exhibitions, to please felicitate our speakers. Let's give them a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. You're very kind. Step forward and center of the stage to take